I can't hear any sound. No. I was hearing you before. It says your mic's off in Zoom. Although it could be saying it's off because you don't have a valid mic input. Yeah, now it's on.
All right, cool. I'll start again. Thanks. Hare Krishna, everybody. I'd like to start this evening's Caitanya Charitamrita reading with a bhajan by Narottam Das Thakur, bhajan that I like to sing. I used to sing a lot in Auckland at the beginning of our Bhagavatam classes on the Sunday morning. This is Savarna Shri Gaura Pada Padme Pratana by Narottam Das Thakur, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More Tama Bina Hake Daya Jagata Samsare Patita Pavana Hetu Sabavatara Musama Patita Prabhu Napahe Behara Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Babalo Kana Koro Ami Boro Duki Doya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Doya Koro Sita Bhakti Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai. Oh, sorry about that. I forgot. Again, how's that? Haha Swarup Sanatana Rupa Raghunatha Bhakta Yuga Shri Jiva Prabhu Lokanath Doya Koro Sri Acharya Prabhu Sri Nivas Ramachandra Sangamage Narottamada Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Shri Gaura ki Shri Shri Jagannath Prabhu Subhadra ki Shri Shri Radha Girira Bhagavan ki Shri Shri Radha Vallabha Bhagavan ki Gopimanandi. So this is a song sung by Narottam Das Thakur, and he praised to Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent, Tama Bina Ke Doyalu. Nobody can be more kind or merciful than Lord Chaitanya in the three worlds. Jagat Samsari, there's nobody more munificent than the Lord. And Prabhupada mentions in his commentary on this that Rupa Goswami also praised the same way, Namo Mahavadanya, that Lord Chaitanya is the most merciful of all incarnations. And we're very fortunate that we have this such an intimate connection with Caitanya Mahaprabhu through the mercy of Parampara and Srila Prabhupada's translation of the Caitanya Charitamrita, and of course his commentaries and purports, which we're going to read from tonight. I wanted to start with a reading from, let me see, I've got a few database files up here. A reading from something that we're reading from the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's the Adi Lila. I mean, tonight's class is going to be on Lord Chaitanya's Vrindavan pastimes after the Ratha Yatra and Pratapuja Maharaj receiving the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But because over the last week and a half, we've all been very much in this feeling mood of separation and anguish and grieving over the loss of great Vaishnava, His Holiness Bhakti True Swami. Krishna's been sending these commentaries by Srila Prabhupada, little messages and pearls of wisdom that can help us to deal with and understand and integrate what's happening with this great loss. And of course, we see it as Krishna's arrangement. Maharaj left on the disappearance day of Sanatana Goswami, the most auspicious Guru Purnima, and everything that happens according to the will of the Lord. So of course, Krishna had his hand in the whole drama of Bhakti True Maharaj's departure from this material world and his ultimate reunion with Srila Prabhupada, his eternal spiritual master and guide. Recently, we heard from Bhakti True Swami. He was explaining, and as he has explained many, many times before, the position of the Guru and the position of the Guru within ISKCON in a multi-Guru society. And I think Bhakti True Maharaj, out of all of the devotees in ISKCON, the GBC members and those who have been on committees around succession and Guru Tattva, he's consistently articulated the same message for many, many years, even before it became topical, that I remember hearing Bhakti True Maharaj in initiation ceremonies explaining to the devotees, his disciples that were taking initiation, that he was initiating on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. And then, that might send off, warning bells that this sounds like a Ritvik philosophy or a soft Ritvikism. But he would continue to explain that Srila Prabhupada's position as a founder Acharya is the preeminent position in our organization, and it's a multi-guru system. Prabhupada wanted everybody in ISKCON to become a guru. So if we have, 5 million, millions and millions of gurus, how will they all fit on the altar? You might think, how would the Parampara pictures, it would just be unlimited with all these pictures. So Prabhupada's position is the ultimate shiksha within ISKCON. And we have our individual Diksha Gurus and Shiksha Gurus who inspire us in bhakti according to the directions and according to the inspiration and guidance given in Srila Prabhupada's instructions and books. The spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, who gives shiksha to the disciple, Prabhupada is giving that shiksha to everybody, not just to his initiated disciples, but he'll continue to give shiksha to every devotee in ISKCON for time immemorial. And that's a position that's been really clearly articulated and deeply realized by Bhakti True Maharaj and shared with many devotees in many forums. And today is also it's an appearance day of His Holiness Giridhari Swami, who's in the Braja Eco Village in the Philippines, for example. And there will be many Vyasa Puja celebrations going on throughout the years of our Diksha Gurus. And that's important that we have this strong connect with our Diksha Guru and with our Shiksha Gurus, that we have a strong connect and we have respect and responsibility, that we follow instructions and guidance from them to make progress in our spiritual lives. And the understanding always is given to us through our Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus is that the empowerment that comes from the Parampara, the empowerment comes from the consistency of the message coming through Srila Prabhupada and through his disciples and through their disciples to future generations of ISKCON devotees. That was just one point that I wanted to share with you, that Bhakti Tree Maharaj has had a big influence on in ISKCON and helping me to understand the position of Srila Prabhupada and our relationship with our gurus and with Srila Prabhupada. And then recently we were reading here at home in the morning, in the evening times from the Adi Lila, 4th chapter. And this is the 4th chapter, is the confidential reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, right from the title, you can expect, and you would expect that it would be quite rasic and quite intimate, esoteric. Lord Chaitanya's internal confidential reasons for his appearance, besides the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And one of the points that's made here is that the Lord will, he satisfies many desires in one action. So his appearance comes, and he appears to glorify the holy name of the Lord and to propagate the chanting of the holy name of the Lord in Sankirtan. And at the same time, he's experiencing his own personal reasons for his appearance, and that is to develop, to understand the taste or to understand the deep meaning of Radharani's experience, Radharani's emotions in her relationship with Krishna. So, and therefore to teach the highest level of Krishna Prema. So in one of these purports that we read yesterday or the day before, Srila Prabhupada talks about separation. And this has been a theme that's been coming up in our personal reading in the Bhagavatam and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the Bhagavatam, we're also reading quite an esoteric Lila, Rasa Lila we just finished, and we're now reading about Arishta Sura, which is quite a contrast. I mean, straight after the Rasa Lila, we read about Vidyadhara, the liberation of Vidyadhara, and then it's Arishta Sura. And he came to try to disturb the residents of Vrindavan right at the time, it says in the middle of dusk, when Krishna was about to perform another Rasa Lila. So therefore, he appeared there, and the residents of Vrindavan came to take shelter of Krishna, and he kills the Arista demon in a very graphic and a very heroic manner. And he's rewarded by the demigods and glorified by the Brajabasis for his heroic deeds, as he is constantly in his pastimes. Anyway, there in that pastime, just before the end of the Rasa Lila section, there's a commentary there, and it says that one who you can never experience fully the understanding of connectedness, of being connected with someone, until you've experienced separation. And that's something that we feel intensely, I guess, particularly the disciples of Bhakti Tree Maharaj and the disciples of any departed spiritual master and loved ones, how that is such an intense emotional experience. Here Prabhupada says the spontaneous attraction, this is in the Adi Lila 432, the spontaneous attraction for Krishna, for his dearest parts and parcels, generates an enthusiasm that obliges Sri Krishna and the gopis to meet together. To celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and the beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and the beloved to meet. I'll read that sentence again. We'll go back to, in the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and the beloved to meet. The period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of increasing anticipation because the lover and the beloved are both present. I thought I'd share that little drop of nectar, wisdom from Srila Prabhupada's commentary on this. Of course, it's very esoteric teaching, the Krishna and the gopis, and understanding their meeting and their separation. So Prabhupada's extracting here, as he does continuously in his commentary, a principle for us to understand that the devotee's whole existence is around separation and union. It's around, and particularly the devotees serve in the mood of the servant of the servant of the servant. And that's what we'll hear tonight in our reading from the Caitanya Charitamrita. That this means we're not directly connecting with Krishna, we're connecting with Krishna through the via medium of the Guru, through the via medium of the devotees who give the contribution of Krishna Bhakti. That was one thing. Now, just to connect with last time, we didn't meet last week because last week was a little bit turmoil and many things going on. And we had discussed the ecstatic dancing of the Lord at Ratha Yatra. And we heard how Lord Caitanya had formed 7 different groups, and there was Advaitacharya in one group, and Srivas Thakur in another group, and Haridas Thakur in another group, and Vakashra Pandit was dancing in one group, and Mukunda Datta was singing in one group, and Vasudev Datta was singing backup vocals in the same group, and there was an amazing lineup of these incredible devotees dancing and playing mridanga and kartals and singing and experiencing transcendental ecstasy at the beginning of the Ratha Yatra when Lord Jagannath was coming onto the cart, and then the experience of the cart being pulled by the devotees and the dancing of Lord Caitanya and the reciprocation between Lord Caitanya and Jagannath, and how that was experienced directly by Prana Prabhu Maharaj and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And that it was explained there that Prana Prabhu Maharaj was able to see that and to perceive what was happening in the past time, how Lord Caitanya had expanded himself into the 7 groups, and each group experiencing and feeling the Lord's presence as in a very exclusive way, that Lord Caitanya was just in their group and they were enjoying the pastimes and the association of Lord Chaitanya's dancing and reciprocation with the Lord in their group and no other group. So it was explained how Prana Prabhu Maharaj got the mercy because he engaged in menial service of sweeping the street and many other things that he'd done in his previous karmas. So after that description of the Lord's dancing in Ratha Yatra and Prana Prabhu Maharaj being able to perceive the Lord expanding himself, when Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu desired to jump high while dancing, he placed these 9 people in charge of Sri Damodar. That was Srivas Ramai, Raghu, Govinda, Mukunda, Haridas, Govinda Nandana, Madhava, and Govinda. These devotees and the devotees in his charge sang along with the Lord, and they also ran beside him. All the other groups of men also sang. So they were running in their kirtan. You can imagine it's a very, very graphical description that's given here in the Caitanya Charitamrita of singing and dancing and all sorts of ecstatic emotions and eruptions. And the actual verb that's used here is ran. They ran beside the Lord. Doya, Dhavati in Sanskrit. They were running beside the Lord in the kirtan. I remember the first time I met Janananda Maharaj was in Perth in 1988, I think. And I was over in Perth studying a diploma in education. And Janananda Maharaj came through, and it was a small brahmachari ashram, so it was very intimate. There was 4 of us in the ashram. I think there was 10 devotees in the whole temple. And there was 4 or 5 brahmacharis and 2 or 3 brahmacharinis and a grihastha couple. And Janananda Maharaj took us out on kirtan, and we were used to just walking up and down, Hay Street Mall and chanting Hare Krishna, doing kirtan for about an hour and distribute some books and go back. And this time we went out with Maharaj. We were running up and down the mall and running through the train station, and it was like we couldn't keep up with him. We were running in the kirtan, and I was thinking, wow, this is a transcendental personality and quite a different kirtan. I've never done the same kirtan like this. running. And here we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's kirtan was also sometimes a running kirtan. Now, Lord Chaitanya, offering obeisances to the Lord with folded hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his face toward Jagannath and prayed as follows. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Dittaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipful deity for all Brahminical men, who is the well-wisher of cows and brahmanas, and who is always benefiting the whole world. I offer my repeated obeisances to the personality of Godhead known as Krishna and Govinda. Now, this is a prayer that all ISKCON devotees have heard and learned from the beginning, because you can't eat without saying this prayer. This is the prasad mantra for offering the bhoga to the deity, or offering the bhoga to the spiritual master. Prabhupada gave us these mantras, his pranam mantras. Namo Mahavadanyaya, Rupa Goswami's mantra, and this Namo Brahmani Devaya. This is a quotation from the Vishnu Purana. And it was quoted here by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's something very significant that the prayers that we have in our ISKCON movement, from the Tulsi prayers and the prayers of the 6 Goswamis and the Guru Vashtakam prayers of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, these prayers are all bona fide prayers. And these bona fide prayers have potency, that when we learn the prayers and we offer the prayers, we develop the mood of offering the prayer to the Lord, then it sort of triggers a form of connection with the Lord, connectedness and realization about what we're doing if we continually offer them. Prabhupada mentions many times in the Bhagavatam, in the 8th canto and in the 4th canto, where the prachetas are offering prayers to the Lord, that we're offering prayers according to our capacity. According to our capability, we offer prayers. And I was saying, the Pracheta said to the Lord, how can we offer prayers to fully glorify you when Ananta Shesh, who has unlimited hoods, has been attempting to do the same since time immemorial, and he hasn't come anywhere near the extent of your glories and activities, but nevertheless, we're obliged to offer some prayer. So we offer this prayer. So these prayers are really important. And in the 8th canto of Gajendra Moksha, Prabhupada says in one purport that devotees should learn these prayers, because Indrajumna Maharaj, in his previous life, he learned these prayers, and therefore Gajendra in his previous life as Indrajumna Maharaj, he learned these prayers and he offered these prayers, and that prayers came back to him when he surrendered to Krishna and held up the lotus flower with his trunk. Then immediately he remembered these prayers that he had learned in his previous life. So it's really important that we learn the Sanskrit prayers. It's important to pray to the Lord. We can pray with our own words and in our own language, but these prayers have special potency, and these prayers are composed by either great souls or they're eternal prayers. They're prayers that come from the Vedas, from Shruti and Smriti, Purana Adi. The most important point is that they're prayers that have been recited and given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as these Shikshastakam prayers. And we continue to recite these beautiful prayers that are given to us by Lord Chaitanya, and connecting us with this tradition and the culture of Krishna consciousness. This is our connection that we have through these commentaries. I mean, when we're reading the commentaries of Srila Prabhupada, they're the combined realizations from Sridhar Swami to the present day, and they're given to us in English language for the very first time. So they're the combination of the Goswami's literature, of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladevi Dibhushana, of all the great acharyas that have written commentaries on these verses. They're coming in the condensed form in Srila Prabhupada's translations and purports. So encouragement to learn these prayers, develop enthusiasm for them. And as Krishna and Sudama were benedicted by Santipani Muni in the ashram after they pleased their spiritual master, he bless them to say that let these prayers that you've learnt be ever manifest. Let them be ever fresh. They'll never become stale for you. And that's the goal of the devotees, that we want these prayers to be ever fresh and ever present for us. And they're so full of instruction and guidance for us, offering respects to who's dear to Krishna, the worshipful deity for all Brahminical men. Krishna is the worshipful deity for the Brahmanas. Krishna is the well-wisher of the cows. Go, Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Hitaya means good, to do good for somebody. He's the well-wisher and the benefactor of the cows and the Brahmanas. And he's always benefiting the whole world. Jagat Hitaya, Krishna. Govindaya Namo Namaha. We offer our repeated obeisances. Namo Namaha, Namaha Namaha, to Govinda. Then Lord Chaitanya prays, Jayati Jayati, all glories, Devo Devaki Nandanoso, to the son of Devaki, Krishna, who's the son of Devaki. Jayati Jayati Krishna Vrishni Vamsa Pradipaha, to the light of the Vamsi, the Vrishni Vamsa, the Vrishni dynasty, Krishna who's the light. And then Jayati Jayati Mega Shamala Komalango, to Krishna who is like a newly formed rain cloud, the color of a newly formed blackish cloud, Mega Shamala. And Komalango means that his body is like a soft lotus flower. Jayati Jayati Prithvi Bharanasho Mukundaha, to Krishna who is the deliverer of liberation to everyone, Mukundaha. And he came to this material world, Prithvi, to destroy all the burden of this world, the demons. Prithvi Bharanasho. That's a beautiful prayer by Mukunda, King Kulashekha and the Mukunda Malastotram. And then there's a beautiful verse from the 10th canto of Bhagavatam that he offers, Jayati Janani Vasa Devaki Janna Vado. Lord Shri Krishna is he who is known as Jananivas, the ultimate resort of all living entities, and who is also known as Devaki Nandana or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious, as well as every man who is impious. By his presence he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities, moving and inert. His blissful smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopis of Vrindavan. May he be all glorious and happy. In the chapter of that we read after the separation of after the Rasa Lila, the chapter was the Vidyadhara chapter, where Vidyadhara appears. And there it said that when by the Savai Bhagavato Srimad Parospasha Hata Shubha, that by the transcendental touch of Krishna's foot, Vidyadhara shed his form of a snake, and he appeared in this Vidyadharachitam, in his form of Rupam Vidyadharachitam, in the form of a great demigod, Vidyadhara. But because of the touch of Krishna's foot, Srimad Paraspasha, Hatashubha means it destroyed all the inauspiciousness. By the touch of Krishna, all of inauspiciousness is destroyed. Or here it says, his mighty arms kills everything inauspicious. From the 10th canto also. That's in the 90th chapter. And the next verse is the last verse I wanted to read from this section before we go into the Vrindavan pastimes. I thought we needed a little bit of an introduction to the Vrindavan pastimes, because this chapter is the next chapter from this in the Caitanya Charitamrita. And this is a famous verse that devotees pray. It's a self-affirmation verse. It's affirming our identity, our position as a devotee. Who are we? I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. Naham viparo na cha narapiti na pivaisya na shudro. Naham vani na cha grihapati no vanasto itirva. Kinto pradya nikala paramananda punam ritabde gopi bhatto patakamalo adas anudasaha. I mentioned just earlier that the position of the devotee is to be the servant of the servant of the servant, that we don't have that direct connection. We connect with Krishna through the transparent via medium of the Guru, through the transparent via medium of the devotees who give us Krishna. And the residents of Vrindavan, it said that they go to Krishna through Radharani, and therefore they call out Radhe, 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 because they understand that Radharani is the embodiment of pure bhakti, and she's the closest thing she's the closest thing to Krishna. And because she's the closest to Krishna, we know we have to go through her energy to get to Krishna. So Naham Viparo Nacha Narapati Napi Vaishyana Shudra. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya or a Shudra. Nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, Vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as a servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. And that also reminds us of another prayer of King Kulashekar that I've shared many times, and that is a beautiful prayer where he prays that the Majjanmana, that the perfection of his birth, his janma, is that when Krishna will svabritya britya paricharya to britya britya, when Krishna will consider him to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. He says 7 times, svabritya britya paricharya to britya britya. A britya is the servant. So Krishna is the one, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Britya. There's one Ishvara, that's Krishna, and everybody else is a Britya, a servant of Krishna. So that is our identity as devotees. And this is a wonderful prayer to learn and to internalize and to meditate upon and to constantly reaffirm our spiritual identity, who we are. It's a prayer that we can offer in the morning before we take up our beads, before we chant the holy name of the Lord, to get in the right focus, the right consciousness. We offer this prayer. I'm offering this prayer as a servant of a servant of a servant. I'm starting my japa today, and I want to focus my attention on becoming a better servant. One of the translations of the Mahamantra, our good friend Paramakaruna in Govardhan, when he was a younger brahmachari, I remember living with him in Canberra, and he would chant the Hare Krishna mantra very enthusiastically, as you can imagine. And he would bellow the mantra out loud in a small temple room. And at the end of each round, he would say, "Oh, my dear Lord Krishna, please engage me in your loving devotional service. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare." And that was his, Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaurabhakunda. Oh, my dear Lord Krishna, oh, the spiritual energy of Krishna, Radharani, please engage me in your devotional service. So that is really the purpose for our chanting, to engage in devotional service as a servant of the servant of the servant at every opportunity. And this is such a cornerstone understanding for devotees, that we don't have this material identity. Our real identity is spiritual. That's a verse by Rupa Goswami. Having recited all these verses from scripture, the Lord again offered his obeisances, and all the devotees with folded hands also offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So another point here is how prayer is such an important part of devotional service. It's a part of Ratha Yatra. It's a part of such an important festival. And praying is there. Kirtan is there, but prayer is there. That personal contact and connectedness with the Lord. And then there's a description of the Lord's dancing and his ecstatic emotions and his perspiration and ripplations, and he's falling to the ground and he's moving the earth by his dancing. And then Lord Chaitanya offers these incredible prayers or realizations about the esoteric meaning of the Ratha Yatra. And we're going to skip over and go to the text, which is chapter 14, Madhya Lila. And this chapter is the performance of the Vrindavan pastimes. It's the same section. It's a continuation of this pastime. And the Sanskrit verse at the beginning is referring to the Heda Panchami festival, which we described a little bit 2 weeks back. Gora Pashyan Atma Vrindai Shri Lakshmi Vijayotsavam Srutta Gopi Rasolasam Hrista Premna Nanatra Saha. Accompanied by his personal devotee, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to the festival known as Lakshmi Vijayotsav. There he discussed the super excellent love of the gopis. Just by hearing about them, he became very pleased and danced in great ecstatic love for the Lord. And there we see that Rasu Ulasam is the super excellence of the mellows. One of the devotees who, in the early days, who gave us a great taste for the transcendental pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a devotee called Radha Damodar. I'm not sure if you know him. And he was reinitiated by Jayapataka Swami. His Diksha Guru had stopped initiating, and he wanted to get reconnected, so he took a reinitiation from Jayapataka Swami. And Jayapataka Swami gave him the name Raso Lasa Radha Damodar Dasa. His name was Radha Damodar, so he gave him the name Raso Lasa, and that's here from the Srimad, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course. The super excellence of the mellows, Raso Lasa Radha Damodar Dasa. There are many amazing pastimes of Jayapataka Swami offering, giving names to his disciples. One of my favorite ones is Jayapataka Swami giving initiation in Bangladesh at the Rupsanath and Smriti Tirtha. And we had been there for a few days, 3 or 4 days, and he was about to leave. There was a group of us who had come from Mayapur to install the deities, Janani Das Prabhu and Ananda Tirtha Prabhu and a couple of the other boys from the Gurukula. And I was tagging along with them, and Jayapataka Swami came, and Prabhu Vishnu Prabhu and a few other devotees came for this amazing festival in the villages in Bangladesh, beautiful setting. And when Jayapataka Maharaj had this amazing amount of devotees lined up for initiation. You can imagine, maybe this was about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. There was just hundreds and hundreds of devotees that had come from all the villages around to this festival. I think 80,000 people came to this festival. And a lot of them wanted to be initiated by Jayapataka Swami. So he held this huge yagya. We installed all the deities, and there was a big yagya kund in the middle of the kirtan mandap, the temple room in front of the altar. And they were doing kirtan, they were doing the yagya all night, swaha, and the devotees were being initiated left, right, and center, like 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 devotees initiated. And then all of a sudden the electricity went down. And Jayapataka Maharaj was getting the names from his laptop. And so it kept going because he had some battery life in his laptop. But when the battery life ran out, that was the end of the yagya. I mean, he couldn't give out any more names because they were giving the names from his laptop. So they just put it on hold, and everybody, it was probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody crashed out there in the kirtan mandap and went to bed. We were already in bed, and we were waking up from Mangalati to get to do the first Mangalati for the deities at Rupsanath and Smriti Tirtha, and we had to walk over all these bodies just collapsed all around this yagya pit, smoldering yagya pit. The Brahmana, the Purohit, was crashed out on the brick of the yagya kund, and it was a real sight to be seen. And then we kind of crawled, we stepped over all these sleeping bodies and walked, got into the temple room, opened up the deity room and woke the deities up for the first time. And we did the Mangalati. When we opened the doors for the Mangalati, the curtains, they could just see like hundreds of devotees lying in the mandap, crashed out of sleep, and the smoldering yagya kund. And then a bit later on, after the morning program, Jayapataka Maharaj was leaving, and all the devotees that didn't get initiated were begging that he could initiate them. And he was in his room, and he was applying his tilak, and the car was ready. His van was getting ready to take him back to Mayapur, and that he was putting on tilak, and he was giving the devotees names by the tilak. Om Keshava Gauranga Namaha, and that was one devotee, and then Om Govindaya Namah Damodara Nama, and he would give a name of tilak, that part of the tilak, and then put Gauranga next to it. So Damodar Gauranga and Keshava Gauranga, like this. Anyway, he's amazingly transcendental personality. Rasa Lasa. All glories to all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur. All glories to the readers who have taken Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their life and soul. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was resting in ecstatic love, Maharaj Prataparudra entered the garden. Following Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's instructions, the king had given up his royal dress. He now entered the garden in the dress of a Vaishnava. And Prabhupada talks in the purport about how devotees, the dress isn't the most important thing. And for devotees to preach and to distribute books or to present Krishna consciousness, if they have to change their attire to make according to the situation, then there is no objection, Prabhupada says. Devotees may wear Western dress for this purpose, for the purpose of Krishna. This is the opposite. Maharaj Prataparudra wears Vaishnava dress, but sometimes we have to wear non-Vaishnava dress in order to be accepted or in order to be more effective in our preaching of Krishna consciousness. Maharaj Prataparudra was so humble that with folded hands, he first took permission from all the devotees. Then, with great courage, he fell down and touched the lotus feet of the Lord. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lay on the raised platform with his eyes closed in ecstatic love and emotion, the king very expertly began to massage his legs. This is after Lord Chaitanya had been through this incredible dancing at the Rath Yatra and a big feast. There's an incredible description of a feast. There's one in this chapter too. The king began to recite verses about the Rasa Lila from Srimad Bhagavatam. He recited the chapter beginning with the words, Jayati te become. That's the chapter 31 in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that chapter is the Gopi Gita. That's the chapter that's very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these verses, he was pleased beyond limits. And he said again and again, go on reciting, go on reciting. As soon as the king recited the verse beginning with the words Tava Katam Maritam, the Lord arose in ecstatic love and embraced him. Upon hearing the verse recited by the king, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you have given me invaluable gems, but I have nothing to give you in return. Therefore, I'm simply embracing you. Similar to what Lord Krishna said to Sudama Vipra, who gave him the cracked chip rice. And he said he was thinking that he couldn't, how can you reciprocate with this gift that his dear devotee has offered him with so much love and affection, that all the riches and the wealth of the king of Lord Indra would in heavenly planets could nowhere near equal the value of this one grain of chip rice that's been given with such affection. And in that section in the Bhagavatam, the verse Patparam Pushpam Param Toyam Yome Bhakti Prayachtati from Bhagavad Gita, ninth chapter in the Gita, is quoted line by line in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the only places in the Bhagavatam the Bhagavad Gita is quoted. I think there's one other place. And so that love and devotion is what, the offering of love and devotion is what will attract Krishna to us. And then Krishna will be obliged. He becomes obliged to his devotees. And he continued to recite, Tavakatamaritam, Tapta Jivanam, Kavibiriritam, Kalmasha Apaham, Shavana Mangalam, Shimadatatam, Bhuvigrinantiye Buddhida Janaha. This was a verse that was beautifully recited and explained by His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj on many occasions, and many devotees. It's a beautiful verse from the Bhagavatam, describing that the nectar of the words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those who are always aggrieved in this material world. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam. They give life to the devotees. These narrations are transmitted by exalted personalities, kavibid, and they eradicate all sinful reactions, karmasha apaham. Whoever hears these narrations attains all good fortune, Shravana Mangala. These narrations are broadcast all over the world, and Bhuvi Grinantiye, and they are filled with spiritual power, Buddhida Janaha, they're most munificent. those who spread the message of Godhead are certainly the most munificent welfare workers. Buddhida Janaha, those people. This is an incredible composition in Sanskrit language, actually. And it said that in these verses, this string of verses in this Gopa Gita chapter, there are as many amazing facets to them. One of them is that the first syllable and the seventh syllable, so ta is the first syllable, and the seventh syllable, I think it is, ta, va, ka, tam, ri, tam, ta, and the seventh syllable, tapta, Jivanam are the same, tava and tapta, and kavibi and kalmasha, apam, and shravana and shrimad, and bhuvi and burita. So the first syllable and the seventh syllable in each line in the whole chapter, or in the whole string of verses in the Bhagavad Gita, are the same syllable. And there's other amazing techniques, or what do they call them? Alankarats, embellishments to this fascinating composition of these verses. So the first and the seventh syllable are all the same. And it's a great way to remember the verse too. If you remember that the first syllable, the first word is tava, then you can get that word towards the end of it in the seventh syllable. It's got to start with a T. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam kavi bidiritam kalmasha apaham. And then shravana mangalam shimaratatam bhuvi grinantiye burida jana. So that's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. After reciting this verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately embraced the king and cried, "You are the most munificent. You are the most munificent." At this point, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not know who the king was. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy was aroused because of the king's previous service. Therefore, without even asking who he was, the Lord immediately bestowed his mercy upon him. How powerful is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu! Without even inquiring about the king, the Lord made everything possible. Everything successful. The first verse in this purport, it's quite a long purport. Prabhupada quotes two famous verses. One of them is the Nihabhikrama Nashosti verse from the second chapter of the Gita, 240, where he says that in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. A little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. That is that in our spiritual bank account, Prabhupada says that a student of the Krishna consciousness must receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Then his devotional service will quickly succeed. This was the case with King Prataparudra. One has to be noticed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and a little service with sincere efforts will convince the Lord that one is a proper candidate for returning home back to Godhead. At first, Mahaprataparudra did not have a chance to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when the Lord saw that the king was serving Lord Jagannath as a menial sweeper, the Lord's mercy upon the king became a solid fact. When Maharaj Prataparudra, in the dress of a Vaishnava, was serving the Lord did not even inquire who he was. Rather, he had compassion upon him and embraced him. Again, this point of service is as being the quintessential aspect of our bhakti lives, that we engage in the ultimate conclusion of Krishna consciousness is service, seva adhikaro diye koro nijadasi. We sing in the morning to Tulsi Devi that please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. That is the goal of the bhakti yogis, is to get bhakti, is to get devotional service. We've been having some discussions with devotees in the China Yatra with Giridhari Swami and our Radha Prabhu, and funnily enough, all the devotees that were in the meeting were from Australia, Chandrasekhar Prabhu and Tirtharaj Prabhu and myself. And they invited me to this meeting to help them to clarify some objectives, learning objectives, knowing me to have been an old stalwart learning objective roller from way back in curriculum development, that I thought I might have something to offer to this discussion. And one of the kind of contentious points that they're dealing with is that devotees, what is the purpose of our Bhakti Shastra? What is the purpose of our studying? What is the purpose of getting the Bhakti Vaibhava or Bhakti Vedanta or Bhakti Sarvabhauma in ISKCON? Is it just to cultivate knowledge? Is it just to accumulate prestige? Is it to accumulate certificates or to get some position or to get something other material? What is the purpose of it? And we know that transcendental knowledge is important, and we all have to read Prabhupada's books. It's a Divya Gyan Hride Prakashito. It's a transcendental knowledge that enables us to connect with the super soul, connect with Krishna, connect with the spiritual master through this knowledge. It's different to mature knowledge. But what is the real purpose of studying, of learning shlokas, of studying the pastimes and activities of Krishna, and of learning the Bhakti Shastri? So one of the things that we narrowed it down to in a 1 hour discussion was that the goal is Yare Deke Tarikara Krishna Upadesh, or that they call that the kind of the spearhead, that the point of the spear was, the point was Yare Deke Tarikara Krishna Upadesh, that we become in almost in soldier-like fashion, that whoever we meet, somehow or other we give Krishna. Now I was thinking about that since our discussion, and thinking it could be interpreted in a very fanatical way, and we could put people off if we're just sitting next to someone to start talking about Krishna to them. They might think that we're half mad or fully mad. So what does it mean to Yare Deka Tarikara Krishna Upadesh? Actually, one way of interpreting that instruction that Lord Chaitanya gave to the Brahmana, called a Brahmana in South India, and it's an important one. It's especially important instruction for Grihastas, because he was a Grihasta, and Lord Chaitanya was discouraging him from becoming a sannyasi, or from leaving his obligations and his responsibilities in his household life to come and to travel with him through his South India tour, and ultimately to Jagannath Puri when he returns. So the point of the Yadi Deka Tarikapa and Prabhupada's interpretation, or Prabhupada's explanation of this verse and the following verse, that says that if you follow these guidelines, then in your Grihasta life, by following the regulative principles and telling people about Krishna, then your material obligations will not become an obstacle on the path of your bhakti. They won't disturb your bhakti at all, because you have a higher purpose. Your consciousness is fixed, at a higher realm. And so, one interpretation of this Yadi Deka Tadikara is that, okay, whoever we meet, we tell them about Krishna, we give them instruction from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, but that may not be an immediate reaction. It might not be, love at first sight. It might not be as soon as we meet somebody, we give them, but as soon as we meet someone, we give them an impression, a good impression of the consciousness of somebody who is in Krishna consciousness. That is a really important thing. And then when we develop that relationship with them, they'll be more inclined and more able to and willing to accept the instruction of Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So it's not that we just madly rant and rave about Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam on the street corner and bash people on the head with the book, but we madly approach people with enthusiasm and confidence and determination and exuberance of bhakti, and somehow or other they can't work it out, and they want to be a part of that. They want to know more about what makes the devotees tick. Why are they like the way that they are? And that's how the Krishna consciousness movement exploded in the beginning, and that's how it's continuing to expand. Is that devotees have the potency within them to continue to inspire other jivas because of relationship connection. So that is one of the goals of our studying the scriptures and degrees in Krishna consciousness. Our Bhakti Shastri degree is to connect with others so that we are able to, where we place ourselves in a position to share Krishna consciousness with them, to share our realizations of the Bhagavad Gita with them, to share our realizations of Krishna's pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam with them. That's one one little point of that I've connected here with the service attitude, that's our service to the Parampara, our service to Krishna, our service to Prabhupada, and gratitude and reciprocation is to continue to expand Krishna consciousness. It was Prabhupada's mission to propagate Krishna consciousness, systematically propagate the teachings of Krishna to society at large, and to teach all people the spiritual techniques in order to check the imbalance of values in society and to bring about peace and unity in the world. It's an incredible vision that Prabhupada has, an amazing mission statement for anybody. And then it continues to expand about the details of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, and bringing the devotees closer together and living a simpler lifestyle, and not to depend so much on the material arrangements, and to write transcendental literatures, to distribute transcendental literatures, to bring about this revolution in the impious lives of the misdirected civilization. And that is the mercy of Lord Caitanya and Lord Panchatattva, that they give this capacity to become attracted to their lotus feet. They expand the flavor of their lotus feet, Lord Caitanya, and then he enables everybody. It said that Lord Caitanya was preaching Krishna consciousness in his Sankirtan mission. It wasn't just for one section of society. He's famous outside of Bengal, even he's famous as a social reformer. If he's not God, he's not a godhead. Even in Bengal today, the local people won't consider him to be a godhead, but he's a very influential personality from the 16th century, who was considered to be a social reformer for 15th century, a social reformer. And he broke caste ties. He completely disregarded material designations, and he enabled people to identify as a spirit soul. And therefore his namacharya was Haridas Thakur, Muslim. And therefore Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who were considered outcasts from the Brahminical culture because they'd taken service in the Muslims, were his Siromani. They were his crown jewels in philosophy and teaching of Krishna consciousness and renunciation and knowledge, and in all sorts of expertise, in all sorts of areas of expertise. And Lord Caitanya had attracted and given Krishna consciousness to everybody, no matter what their material situation was. All right, so that's probably a good place to wrap it up. That we're concluding with bhakti, with devotional service, and that's what Prabhupada gave. Prabhupada's unique contribution to the world was Krishna consciousness, and within the Krishna conscious package is devotional service, bhakti, devotional service that enables us to realize our spiritual identity and to develop a connection with Krishna. And there's a beautiful verse that I've read twice now. I read in the Caitanya Charitamrita, and I read in the Srimad Bhagavatam in our simultaneous readings. And it says that Krishna appears, he agrees to appear in this human-like form, manusham deham ashtitaha. He comes in the human-like form to attract the conditioned souls. And when we become attracted, when we hear about Krishna's transcendental pastimes, it says, Yashrutva tat paro bhavet. We should become devotees. We should do bhakti. By hearing about Krishna, we should become free from pride. We should become freed from false pride, free from false bodily designation, free from envy of other living entities and other devotees making advancement in Krishna consciousness. Because it's said that as soon as a devotee gives up the hearing and chanting about Krishna and his transcendental pastimes, immediately we become consumed by pride. And that pride manifests in the form of envy of other living entities, envy of other devotees. And that is a great obstacle on the path of progress for the bhakti yogis, is to become consumed by pride. And whenever one becomes consumed by pride, Krishna makes arrangements for the devotees to be deflated and to be reinstated in their position as the Jivara Surupahoy Krishna Nityadas, as the eternal servant of Krishna. And that is the safest position in the material world. That's the position where we get full shelter and protection of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva and the Parampara. And somehow or other we have to do something, one little bit of service to attract the attention of Lord Chaitanya, and then everything will be successful in our lives. Hare Krishna. I've been speaking for almost an hour now to a screen. I hope that was of some value. There are not many participants on here, but I heard that some people will tune in after this evening session. So I think we'll wind it up here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Go Premanandi. Hey, Arjuna. Shall I end up?
Did you stop the broadcast?
Okay. Haribol.